everyone, it's Linda from LyndaCreates, and this is part 2 of my thrifted Hawaiian shirt slow stitching modern embroidery art piece. And I thought I'd start off this video with a view of this shirt that I used that was thrifted. And here's the project as it is looking right now. And part 1 showed the trimming, the cutting out, the selecting of the pieces, the coloring of this little bit of gauze to make it the right shade of pink. So I wanted to do part 2. I'm going to finish up the stitching on this, and then I'm also going to put it into my stitch notebook, which I want to share how I'm going to do that as well. But you can see I finished off the center of the hibiscus. I finished off all the leaves from the hibiscus. I'm starting now on the plumeria leaves. You can see a little bit of work on that, and I'm going to work on that, and I'm going to add colors to this. I'm really excited to share how it's going to work into my stitch notebook when I'm done. You can see I added a little bit of beads up here too. I'm doing the large leaves for the plumeria, and I'm doing a light green, a crewel yarn, light aqua, dark aqua, and a darker green. So I wanted it to be a little bit different shade of green compared to the hibiscus leaves, but I also wanted to pick different textures because you can see how fun it looks in the flower itself with the different textures. Just playing with that, and I'll keep working on that and be back. I wanted to work on the flowers first. Although they don't look like it here, I'm going to turn them into plumeria. I think that's the difference. So I have selected a variety of colors and different types of thread. My thinking is, similar to how I did these leaves up here, is that the coarser or thicker fibers, I'll call them threads for now, including the yarns, will be in the larger area, and then the details where the color is blended a little more subtly on these flowers, I'll use embroidery floss so that I could change up the color a little bit. I think I'll start from the center of the flowers, and I have to reshape these also because plumeria are more rounded petals. So actually the plumeria is an oval shape, so thinner. Here it's a little round, and I can easily cut off the flower petals that are too pointy. I say easily cut off, but this is where stitching can be very forgiving. Okay, so the one that's going to look the most awkward is this long one, but I will be able to just stitch over it like I said before. I'm going to start at the center. They have a very dark orange color, so I'm using, actually, it's more of a, well, I guess it's more of a color that's matching this, so it's just a darker shade. And I'm going to use 3 strands. And here's a photo that I'm using as reference. And I noticed, well, I'm using the light pink is wool, the white is pearl cotton, and the yellow parts are embroidery floss. Now the thing I notice is, obviously I'm doing them in plumeria colors on top of a different color, and I can see some of the blue coming through in the white and yellow areas. So I am going to go back with a little bit of embroidery floss to fill it in. I just want it to be a little more solid looking, I think. I don't know. I have to decide. I am going to go back with some more of the yellow and just blend a little bit more. But I needed, because it's not in the exact shape that I wanted, I am kind of doing it in layers or in stages. I'm doing it in stages because I want to make sure I get the colors in place, make it look like how plumeria petals overlap each other. So I just want to place the color first, and then I'll come back and do the details. And I'm doing the light yellow in 6 strands of embroidery floss. This actually is a fun way to get yourself to really look at flowers, how they come together. Okay, so I'm going to keep stitching, fill in the whites, finish this flower, and then finish this flower. I am so excited how the plumeria turned out. I had to do a little design control to get everything to work out, but I love the way they turned out, and they're so pretty in there. So now, next thing I have to do are these remaining plumeria leaves, and I want to do them a little different than what's on the hibiscus. So I am using, well, shades of green and a pop of yellow, and then I'll be able to start putting it into my stitch notebook. So let me get working on that right now. I have everything stitched. The leaves, the flowers, and I did these leaves, the plumeria leaves, in a darker shade of green, or yeah, darker and more yellow shades of green, and then the hibiscus has more of an aqua and lighter green. And then I just did a little running stitch around the outside of my fabric in back there, so I can go ahead and prepare it for adding to my stitch notebook. So I'm going to first take it off of the frame, and a lot of people have trouble with this, and I also have trouble. I start by turning it towards me to loosen up the tension, and I like to take the corners off first. Okay. So once you have the corners off, you can slide these off. Well, okay, let me do it this way. You can take these corners off, and then slide this that way. I know you could just pull these off, like pop them off, because they're hollow in there, so you just pop them up, but I don't have the hand strength to necessarily do that, and I discovered disassembling it, although it's a little more awkward. Oops, sorry. Although it's a little more awkward, does work without hurting your hands. So let me and that frame reassembles very easily, so you don't have to worry about that. So now I have my piece. I have a lot of extra fabric on it. The finished size, so let me show you the notebook. So I have earlier videos of showing how I put together my stitch notebook. I have one piece in there right now. It's not finished. I don't have anything on the back side of it yet, but I decided that this would look better on a right-hand page. So this is a right-hand page, obviously. Other side is a left-hand page. So some things look better going this direction and some look better going the other direction. So I decided this would look better going that direction. It has to be a new page, which is fine because I just put together another of the, what did I call these? Well, it's a thing that has the 3-hole punch, and then I have another page ready to go. So I have those ready to go, and this was just a piece of sheet that I cut to 1/4, so 16.5 inches wide, total by 11 inches high, and then I folded it in half. So that's that piece. I'll put a link to the video where I make the pages for my stitch notebook. But now I have this piece of art, and I need for it to be, after all the seam allowances are turned in, and not counting the left side that is going into the binding, the finished size is 8.5 by 11. Well, I guess that would be 9.5 by 11 because an extra inch goes onto the left-hand side. But it's 11 inches high and 9.5 wide with the seam allowance on the right. So what I need to do is trim it down, but I want to trim it down so that I'll have a little seam to tuck under, and I want to make sure that before I start cutting it. So I have a new tool that I just got, and you guys probably all know about this already, but I just wanted to share it. It's new to me. It's a cut and press by June Taylor and AccuQuilt. So it has an ironing side on one side and a self-mending board on the other side. So I thought I'd treat myself to it because I'm doing so much of this. So I wanted to do that. So I just got this for myself off of Amazon. And logically, it would be a very good, very clever. So what I want to do is trim it a little bit larger than the finished size and then turn in the edges. So I have to figure out where that is. I need it to be 8.5 inches wide, plus I'm going to add a little extra on the left. So this is my page. This is a binding. And some of the fabric has to go into the binding to hold it in there. Some has to end here, and I'm going to cut, I marked it at this point so that I'll have about 1 inch to tuck in back. So I have a clean seam on that side, and the art ends here, but I have an extra inch to add into the binding. So I left a 1-inch seam allowance here, and then I gave it about another inch over so that fit into the binding. Now for the height, I'm making it 11 inches high. So I'm a little bit closer to the bottom, a little bit more space on the top. So what I did, I needed 11 inches tall. I measured and marked it, then added 1 inch on the top and 1 inch on the bottom for seam allowance. So now I can cut that. That comes out to 13 inches tall complete. So now, let's flip this over. I have the sides pinned, and I just found another great thing about this what was it called? The cut and press. Is you can actually, and I'm sure this is a common knowledge, but you can make sure that things are square. So it's a little wide here, and I want it to be straight for when I put it actually on the page. Okay, that's better. I will iron it so that it'll be easier to add it to the book. So while I'm waiting for my iron to heat up, I'm just going to check how this fits on my page. I originally gave myself a little border around the art where you can see the page fabric in the background around it, but decided not to use that. But I have a little extra on this side, so when I put it into the binding, I could actually take it inside there, turn this, and have a neat binding there, so I have enough fabric to do that. This gives me a good idea of maybe taking, because this fabric's so pretty, maybe I'll take the whole page to that size rather than make it smaller. I like the way the leaf is on the edge, so I'll keep that. I decided to take the fabric to the edge to give it a nicer finish. So what I'm doing is I'm going to take this fabric that I stitched on, and that is going all the way to the edge of my page because it is such a pretty fabric. I'm not going to have a border. I was planning on a border originally, but now that I see how pretty it is, I'm not going to. I think I need to put my iron up there. So I ironed the edges and I turned them in, and I did a basting stitch to hold them in place. There, you could kind of see it here in red, and there's white thread here. And what I decided to do was, with the washable marker, I did about 1/4 inch line around the whole piece because I want to straight stitch it down, but I want it to be a very neat, tidy straight stitch because I'm going to do it in a green because it is a tropical setting. That was my thinking. So I did want it to look nice and neat. The other thing is, this is the page, the sheet that goes into the notebook, the backing, and I have it pinned to a half page, or the front side of the page. So this edge is on the fold. Now I'm not going to stitch down this side. That's why I did it in a different color, so that I'll remember not to stitch it flat. And here's the binding. So what will happen is the backing fabric will go into the binding, and when I'm ready, I will stitch this down onto it. Now the reason I say when I'm ready is that I also want to put art on the other side, so I'll probably do a stitch when it's all done and I have art on the other side, and then I will hand stitch down this whole edge on both sides to keep it in place. But I wanted to have a nice finished edge here. The other thing is that the page itself needs to be, I think it was 9 3/4 inches. Hold on, let me check that. And I'm referencing my previous page. Okay, so I have it at 9 3/4 inches, and it fit within the binder. So I don't really want to go over that. I could give it a little more. When I'm ready, I'll just make sure it's 9 3/4 inches so it could come out just a touch. Yes, something like that when I'm ready. But right now what I want to do is stitch along these three sides onto the page backing in a nice running stitch, again in green. So let me go ahead and start stitching. I have the edges stitched. So this is my page. Okay, and I have the binding here. So in my stitch notebook, you can see this one's not completely in yet either, because I don't have something on the back, and I didn't want this one to be a left-handed page, so I had to make another whole new page. So it is going to fit in like that, and the binding is going to overlap like that, and then I'm going to stitch this down to it. So I didn't finish all of the stitching because I wanted to get it in the book first and see how it looks. And I'm also going to wait for the whatever I do on the back page and get that all done. And just a little trick, well, side note, I guess, this green floss, number 470, DMC 470, I know myself. When I get ready to finish this page, I probably won't remember the color. So I had the leftover piece and I just tucked it inside here, just sort of like a pocket. So I left a piece in there so that when I'm ready, I can find it again. So the page fabric itself is going underneath the binding, and the artwork piece is going on top of the binding, just in case that wasn't clear. And I like this better on a right-hand page going in because of this seam too. And oh, I didn't point out, let me come in a little bit, is that I did a little couching of some yarn for the stem. I didn't mention that before, but I did the simple running stitch. I did the running stitch there. I love the way this turned out. I love the fact that the shirt had totally different colors. Well, the flower was the same, but the background was this, let me turn it around. But the background was this red, which I removed, and these flowers, and here's another batch of these flowers, were blue and red, and I turned them into white plumeria. I liked how that turned out. And the leaves ended up being just shades of green, and to differentiate them, I wanted them lush colored greens. So the bottom ones for the plumeria are a yellowish green, and the top ones for the hibiscus are kind of a bluer green. Just kind of a side note. And again, I also added this little bit of gauze to add some pink back in there. So that is my thrifted Hawaiian shirt artwork. Some embroidery, simple embroidery stitches, a little running stitch here and there, some batik fabric for the background to add some color, and am going to add it as a piece into my stitch notebook, which, if you haven't seen that video, please check it out. You can see how I did all this stitching and this stitching and this stitching and just had a blast with that. So it's, again, the stitch notebook is where I'm going to be able to do art like this and have a place to put it. So check out that video. The thinking too was that you don't always need to frame your piece. You can add it into this notebook and have it just as art for art's sake. I hope you enjoyed that. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed that, please like and subscribe and give it a thumbs up and hit that bell so that you'll be notified when I upload a new video. And I post every week on Monday at 11 a.m. Pacific time. And I'm doing mostly stitching. I do a few other craft items, but I'm loving the stitching. I am so thrilled that it's summer, nice long days, and wanted to do something summery. So please check out my website, LyndaCreates.com. That's Linda with a Y, and find other projects that I've made, other videos, and see all these fun projects, and how you'll find about the stitch notebook in there and how I made it and how you can make your own and have some place to just put your art and collect all your art in there. Gives you something to do with it. You know, if you're not making a dimensional project for someone or something, you just want to do the art of it and have fun stitching. That's what this is. And the nice thing too is you can basically add pages wherever you want. And if you are doing something where you want it to go on a left-hand page where the art's coming in this way, you can do it, you know, add it onto a page here or there. Again, oh, and also you can use art that you did somewhere else that you want to add into and make it into a different project. If you did it and you framed it, but you want to do it as a piece of art, you could do it in a stitch notebook. So thanks for watching, and I will see you in my next video.